friends because we're not friends. We don't actually
We're
like
not
each
friends.
other.
Yeah, we don't even like
We're
each
not
other.
not even
Hey,
in real
Shannon.
life.
This
Hey,
is Shannon. For my friends that don't know, this is my friend Shannon.
I'm Shannon, but we're not actually friends.
We're not friends. No, we were literally just talking. We were just talking about like our working together, and you were gonna say something. I was like, wait, let me just hit the record button. We could just talk. Yeah. So go ahead with what you were gonna say.
So I was saying one of the funniest things, and I think one of the most powerful, what's the word that I'm even looking for? One of the most powerful realizations I had about like why it was so important for me to work with you when I did was because for a little bit of backstory, since I know not everybody is going to know this, right? Like we're recording in February of 2021 right now. I started working with Alyssa in the middle of March 2020. And so we're in the US. That is, you know, the kind of like the beginning date of this global pandemic, right? In the US anyway, that's when it finally hit us. So I made the decision to work with you, Alyssa, kind of in the beginning of March. And I remember that exact day was when we got the first email from my kids' school saying, you know, just as a precaution, we're going to have your kids out for the next 2 weeks, right? And then they never went back, right? And so
yeah, remember when it was just 2 weeks, just 2 more weeks,
and then it was like
more weeks,
2 more weeks, and then it was going to be, you know, another month. And so here we are, almost a year later, and nothing has really gone back to the way that it was before. And so what I was saying to you before we started recording was, you know, had I known at the time how all of that was going to unfold, I would have been too afraid to hire you. Like you were the first coach that I ever hired. And it was a high ticket investment for me, right? It was several $1,000s, like closer to 10 than 0, right? And so that was a big investment for me at the time. And especially for my first coach that I had ever hired. At this point, I had already invested several $100s in you because like I already knew before I got on the call that I wanted to work with you, but I also didn't know there was going to be this global pandemic, right? So had I known that, just being the person that I am, because I'm a personal finance coach, right? Like money is kind of important to me. Managing your money is important, right? And so had I known that, I would have been way too scared of like what maybe could happen to hire any kind of coach. It wouldn't have mattered who it was. I would have been like, no, it's not logical to invest that kind of money. However, I'm grateful that I didn't know that because, you know, with me not knowing that, I pulled the trigger immediately, right? Like I talked to my husband that night. We made the decision, we paid you in full, and then the world kind of shut down. And in spite of that, my business has thrived. I have thrived as a human. I've grown so much. And because of you, I have only hired people that fill my soul, or not hired, rather, the only people who have hired me the people who have hired me as their coach have been people that are just incredible. Like every single one of them fills me up because, you know, as coaches, you're spending so much time with these people that if it's not an energetic match, it can really just suck the life out of you, right? And I'm an introvert as it is, and so it takes a lot of time for me to fill back up, to like re-energize. And so it's really important for me to work with people who are an energetic match. I really don't know how else to put it, who are excited, who are self-motivated, who are ready to get started, that are not expecting me to like snap my fingers, even though, you know, people now have started calling me the money witch. Like that's not real life, right? Like you have to do the work. And after like very shortly after working with you, I remember you going through this struggle of being like, only going to work with people who are just the perfect person for me from now on. You know, from now on, me, Alyssa, I'm only going to work with people who are my perfect client, right? Those are the only people. I'm going to refuse to work with anybody else. And I was like, fuck yeah, I'm going to do that too, you know? And so this was
Yeah.
me starting out
Yeah.
and like at the very beginning where I had no business turning down clients, but I made a decision so early on because I was following your example, right? Like I could see the shift in energy between you working with people who were expecting you to do everything for them versus working with people like me who were showing up to every single call, who were doing the courses beforehand, who were doing all of the things, right? Like the do Alyssa thing, do what Alyssa says thing. Like,
Yeah.
and they started that. I don't remember. It was like somebody in that particular
Hashtag do what Alyssa says.
do
Yeah.
what Alyssa
No,
says.
it was definitely that cohort where that got started. And
Yeah.
it was such a great group. I want to say that was that group that we had, that cohort. Oh my gosh, like every single one of the women in that space, like you all are freaking thriving. And it really is like a testament to perseverance and the type of people that do work with me, right? I mean, we're talking about Nicole, Lana, you, even Chris, like I can't remember
Stephanie was in
everybody.
there. Yeah.
Stephanie was in there. That cohort specifically, everyone started working with me as the global pandemic started, right?
Right.
And there was absolutely some fear, but man, like we just kept our heads straight during that time as a community, right? And I think the one thing that I always try to do with you guys and do with my clients is just continue to be vulnerable and let you know, like, listen, I'm having some of these things creep in too, but here's like decide that we're the freaking leaders, because at the end of the day, like we get to grow our business, we get to make more money during all this, we don't have to shut down. And there were people who were just like shutting their doors on their virtual business, and I looked at it like, hey, this is a really amazing opportunity, people are going to be online more, so let's show up more, let's be there for the people who need us. So yeah, I actually can't think of anyone during that cohort who didn't have epic freaking results. And the one thing, like the one reason I wanted to chat with you today is because, you know, some of those people came to me that already had established businesses, right? They already like maybe made $5,000-$10,000. What was that?
It was like literally everybody except me. I was the only one
Yeah,
who was
yeah.
just starting out.
Well, not necessarily, because Nicole had just started.
Oh yeah,
She had
that's
just
right.
started.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Nicole recently quit her job. I gotta do an interview with Nicole too.
Yeah, she's amazing.
But you know, yeah. And so Nicole had just started, Lana had just started, like she was doing some other work with other things, but I want to say it was the three of you that had all just gotten started. Now, all of you work for yourselves. All of you have since quit the jobs or no longer work at the jobs that you were working. I know you specifically weren't at a job, but my point is I wanted to talk to you about like what it was like coming in like new baby entrepreneur. Like you had tried some other things in the past, but this is the first thing that you're like, no, I'm going to grow this business, this is the thing. And you weren't really fully clear on what you were doing because you had just decided that you're going to get into personal finance. So there was like, you're like, I think I'm going to do something around personal finance. I don't even know what it looks like, right? Like you didn't even know at the time what it looks like. So that's kind of really what I wanted to talk to you about today is what is it like coming in to work with me, just having absolutely, you've never gotten a client, you really don't even know what your offer looks like, you're not really sure about the money making tasks that you need to do, right? And so I want to hear kind of from your perspective on what I know you've already spoke about how amazing it was that you already had permission to never work with somebody that you didn't want to work with, which is so many of us make that mistake as entrepreneurs. We've all done it.
Yeah.
We've all done it with the exception of Shannon. We've all brought on the clients that we were like, what the hell? Like, I got to get rid of this person. They're draining my energy. I can't do this. So with the exception of Shannon, who started working with me very early on and learned that lesson through me, what else was it like? Like, tell us more about that.
Yeah. So a little bit more about my backstory is that I actually found Alyssa in a bookkeeping group because
Mhm.
that is what I decided, right? So I decided in like the end of 2019 that I never wanted to go back to work for anybody ever again. I spent a lot of time kind of beating myself up, thinking that something was wrong with me because I had a really hard time with somebody just telling me to do something and not really explaining the why behind it, because I want to know why. Like, how do things work? Can we make this better? Can we make this more efficient? Right. And so um, what most entrepreneurs know is that we become entrepreneurs because we're not great employees, right? Because we don't just like sit down and shut up,
We're
and we don't.
unemployable.
Yeah. And so for me, I decided at that point, like, okay, I want to contribute to our long-term goals, but I don't ever want to work for anybody again. I don't ever want to have to worry about like calling in to my job and hoping I don't get fired because one of my kids is sick, right? Like, I just didn't want to have to do any of that stuff again, but I wanted to be able to reach our goals faster in our family because my husband still was working full time and making really good money. So he didn't need to work, but I wanted to reach our goals faster.
Mhm.
So I went through all of the steps to create this bookkeeping firm. I got all these certifications, and I, like 6 months later, didn't have any bookkeeping clients. And so I was in this group, and somebody asked the question, has anybody ever actually made 50K a year doing bookkeeping? And Alyssa responds, mind you, I've never seen this woman before in my life. She responds, well, I mean, I've done it in a month consistently. Does that count? And so I was like, who is this person? Right. So that's where I
Leave
started.
it to me. Leave it to me to come in and swoop with something, offhanded. Like, well, I mean, I made that in a month, so
Yeah, well, and to be fair, right? Like, I think a lot of people will be familiar with the group. You were allowed to post that, right? There's a
Yeah,
relationship there that,
yeah,
you were allowed to post that. And
yeah.
so I was like, oh, who's this person? And so I started following your videos. And, I think I purchased the ebook first and then immediately purchased Social Machine, which is still one of my favorite products to date. I know, like, it's so underrated in your mind, but it's still one of my favorite products to date because it's just so to the point. Like, there's no bullshit. It's just here are
Yes,
the things you need to do. And
I'm
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 about it.
actually relaunching that alone,
You
standalone.
you
That's my
should.
next. Yeah. So
You should.
anyone who's watching this right now, be on the lookout. I am relaunching Social Machine as a standalone product again. I never ever
Yeah.
freaking thought I would be doing that, but it really is. It is such a it's an epic
It's
little course. Everyone loves the Social Machine because it's
well, it's
so
bold because
direct.
you can get through it in a couple of hours and you can start implementing all of it immediately, and it's
Mhm.
it's just to the point. There's no fluff about it, and for people who are busy, we really appreciate that, right? Like, I wanted results yesterday,
Yeah.
so I started implementing those things. And then you had a course that came up about, it was the course launch machine. You were teaching us how
Mhm.
to build a course, and at the time, like, I didn't have any kind of course that I wanted to build, but I wanted to be a part of whatever it was that you were doing. So I bought that, which allowed me some face time with you. And during that call, I remember was when I had the shift, right? And the shift was, I was talking about personal finance, right? Because I'm a bookkeeper, I'm supposed to be dealing with people's business
Mhm.
finances. And so then I start talking about personal finance and I get like really worked up and excited about it. And you're like, so how about you do that instead? I was like, I'm
Yeah.
allowed to do that? Like, people will pay me to talk about this shit? And she's like, yes, like, that's your thing. Let's figure out how to make money doing that, right? So I built out this course.
And that's
You know,
that's so important too, Shannon, is a lot of people talk about like the magic of working with me, where I help people see what
yeah,
it is that's like their thing. What is your magic, right? And that's like that area where it's literally, for me, just super intuitively. I watch the way people talk, I listen to them, I hear them, and I could see in them when they get excited, even on the phone. Like, when I talk to somebody about something and I hear the way like the inflection in their voice
mhm,
changes. And it's just like intuitively, I just know like wait a second, you've been trying to grow a business that's completely out of alignment, right? And so even like Danielle, we could talk about Danielle. Man, she came into my space trying to grow a bookkeeping business, and now she's a successful knitting coach. Like, but when she's sitting on those calls knitting, and I'm like, why aren't you doing that? Like, why aren't you monetizing you? Like, that's your thing, right? And so that's the whole idea of monetize your magic. And why I really started leading into that is because it is, you're in the bottle, you're trying to take the route that seems the most logical, right? Like, this is the logical thing to do. I know a lot about personal finance, so why shouldn't I be able to grow a bookkeeping business, right? So you shift to logic versus, I know a lot about personal finance, so why don't I just mother up and grow a business around personal finance? Oh, wait, I can do that, but that sounds scarier. It doesn't sound as commoditized. So we naturally like go back to what's safe. And sometimes this is actually the complete wrong thing for us, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that's, first of all, I'm pissed that I didn't come up with monetize your magic first, because it's the perfect description of what you do. And it seems like one of those things that I would have been like, oh, Alyssa, this is what you do. So I'm kind of mad that like that never occurred to me to be like, oh, Alyssa, this is what you do, because it's so perfect. But it's literally just you do this thing where you like pull it out of people, right? And then you're like, okay, so now we have this concept. How do we turn that into what we want to do with it, right? And so going back to your original question of like, what was it like just starting out? You gave me the permission to do what I wanted to do anyway. And so then by the time, because at that point it was like a 1 month waiting list to even like give you all of my money, right? Like I had to wait a month to talk to you after that because you're so damn popular, right? So by the time I got on the phone with you, I was just ready to like give you all of my money. And so then our first coaching call, it was literally just, how do we make money off of this? And so we built out an offer within an hour. It was literally an hour. And it was like, okay, I have an entire business plan, right? And because it was so simple. Just, here's the thing. How do we turn that into making money? And I think within, it was like 2 or 3 weeks, I had my first ever one-on-one coaching client, right? And that was the lowest that I ever charged for that service. And I've had to increase it each month thereafter. Every month that I've been in business, I've had to increase my rate because I've realized like, I've had so many of my clients get on the phone with me for the first time and have so many breakthroughs just from the first call that it's like, oh, that's it? That's all you're charging? You know what I mean? Like, that's it. And so you would say to me like, okay, that's a sign that you probably should up your rate, right? Like that's a sign that you're doing too much for too little, right? So it's just been that consistent guidance of like me not having to figure everything out on my own, because I could have, right? And I think that's the beauty, is that like you don't come from this place of like, oh, you need me in order to be successful. It's always from this place of like, you already have all of the things, right? Like, let me hold a mirror up to you and show you, here are all the things that are already available to you. How can we package these things together in this nice, tidy little package and serve it up to all of the people that are exactly right for you, instead of, trying to meet the masses, right? Instead of trying to talk to everybody, right? Like you make us get so clear on what's important to us and then don't allow us to budge on that. And that's the thing, like the thing that I took from you more than anything in the entire time, because now I've been working with you for almost a year consistently, like I've just refused to leave. But it's grit and tenacity.
And
like,
you know what? That's
the beauty of the new program. And I'm like, I so get it, because now I never want anybody to leave me. Like, that's what's so beautiful about level 7 is like, now we get to be together forever and ever and always. Right. And we're just growing and like this new
There's
group.
no breakup.
Yeah. I mean, and these women are incredible, dude. Like the energy in our calls right now is just, it's nuts, man. They're all just so freaking cool. And we're also
I feel emotional when I talk about it
Me too.
because there's so much emotion. Like, honestly, there's so much emotion that happens on those calls
Mhm.
that it's like I'm empathetically like, I learned recently that I'm not a psychopath, because I do feel so much emotion. Like, I was like, oh, okay, good. That's good to know. I think about the emotion that bleeds through on those calls, and it's like I immediately feel it when I talk about those calls
Yeah.
because it's like, oh my gosh, they're just so good, the breakthroughs that people have, and it's that consistent. I love the way you said it, showing the mirror to them, like, this is what you're made up of, this is
Mhm.
what you want, you just said it out loud to me, so why aren't you doing that?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know if that would work. Well, of course it will. Of course that will work, but it is talking about it and having somebody to guide you, to say you get to be all of you, you get to be more of you.
Yeah.
And so, I think what sometimes it's the simplest things. It can be so simple, right? Like, you came to me with no idea of what you wanted to do. I mean, you had an idea, but you were like, is this feasible? Is this viable? Can this even happen?
Yeah.
Right. And so we quickly put an offer together, and we know everything drives to the offer, right? All of our content drives to the offer. Everything we do has to drive to the offer so people understand who we are.
Mhm.
We put the offer out. You had the money making tasks. You knew what to go do every single day to you got clients within 2 to 3 weeks. And so, but the other point I want to make about this is you were available and ready for the
Mhm.
results, right?
Yeah.
You were available and ready for it. And I think that's important because some people, as much as like we can say to ourselves, like, of course we're available for this, of course we're ready for this, but there's still some part in our minds that sometimes we can be resistant to
Oh, for sure.
creating success on our own for whatever fear we have. Maybe there's money mindset blocks. Maybe there's something else that's going on, like worthiness, right? And so
Mhm.
those are the things that we have to work through. But the best part about it was like, it's it's the biggest reason I wanted to like talk about this today is because we think that there's like these steps that we need to do before we hire a coach, like, oh well, first I have to go do this, and it's like, well, that's, you're guessing, right? You're guessing on those first things
Right.
that you're deciding. And we talked about this at length. Like, even this happens with your clients. They're like, well, I'm not sure if I'm ready to hire you because I have to do these first things first. And it's like, no, no, no,
Right.
that's what we do. Like,
Yeah,
we
that's the
we
point.
get to take you from this spot right here and immediately get you where you want to go. It can happen very fast. It can happen 2 to 3 weeks
Right.
because you're going to know exactly what to do to get where you want to go
Mhm.
versus walking away from me, going around, spinning around in circles, chasing your tail, wondering if you're making progress, and then come back to me in, sometimes 2, 3 months
Yeah.
from the time I talked to them the first time, and they're like, and it's like, what progress have you made? I haven't really made any.
Yeah.
Well, that's the idea, is like, get somebody in your corner, and whether it's me, whether it's you, right, whether, for both of our potential clients or ideal soulmate clients that are out there, whether it's me, whether it's you, the idea here is that by putting somebody in your corner, you get to, if you're ready and available for results, that can happen so quickly.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be 6 months, it doesn't have to be 5 months, it can be a matter of 2 to 3 weeks,
Yeah. For me, like
right?
one of the
You could
most,
start making more money 2 to 3 weeks.
yeah, one of the most attractive things I think in the beginning was this concept that you introduced to me of collapsing time. Because I'm
Mhm.
like, I'm 31 now, I was 30 at the time. Like, I don't want to sit around and try to figure things out anymore. I've been trying to figure it out. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 20, right? I've
Yeah.
had that spirit in me. I've tried to start all these businesses. Clearly, I don't have all of the pieces, right? So I didn't want to sit around and try to figure it out anymore. And so you were like, you don't have to, right? Like, I
Right.
can help you fill in these gaps, and it can happen very quickly. And so I know
Right.
we've got to wrap up because it's like 11 at this
Yeah.
point. But what was it? We were
Yeah.
talking about collapsing time, and there was something else that I wanted to say related to that that just is like really brings it home. Um, and I think it's just the idea of like feeling like you have to wait until you're at a certain point in order to like be worthy of stepping into this
Yeah.
space or whatever. For me, I had no clue what I was doing, right? And I came in and Alyssa does have all of these strategies, right? Like you've built out all of these courses. There are all of these like really amazing strategies that you can implement immediately and have results. But what I think was most powerful for me as an individual was that I tried every single strategy that you gave me, and not every single one of them worked for me.
Yeah.
And you always came back with, that's okay, let's try something else. That doesn't have to work for you. You don't
Right.
have to take my strategy. This specific strategy doesn't have to work for you. We can find what works for you, right? And we always did. And so that's what I think is really important for people to take away is like, don't wait to find somebody to get in your corner who is a little bit ahead of you, right? Because if you can have somebody collapse time for you, then instead of you waiting, it just let somebody help. Like just let somebody in and let them help. And then secondly, like find what works for you, right? Like not every single strategy is going to work for every single person, right? It could or it might not, and that's not a reflection of you or of your business or of the potential success, right? It just means that you haven't found the thing that's going to work for you yet. And having that tenacity, right? That I'm going to keep going, I'm going to keep trying and continuing to show up consistently. That is what's going to make you successful in the long run.
Right. And so to wrap up, why don't you quickly tell us about some of the results that you've been able to get working with me and some of the like massive shifts you've been able to make in your life, and if any final words for anybody who is considering, they're just starting out and they're considering working with me. That's kind of two questions, but take it away.
Yeah. So for me, gosh, I'm so wordy. I have consistently increased my income in my business every single month I've been in business, which doesn't feel like a lot all of the time, right? Because we're surrounded by all of these badasses, right? Like everybody that you work with is just amazing, right?
Yeah.
So it can be really difficult not to compare yourself, and I'm definitely guilty of that. But when I look back at what I've been able to accomplish in a year, I profited last year, right? Which most businesses don't do in the first year. And my income in my business has increased every single month since I started. And last month was actually like a huge record for me. Like it was a really big milestone in my business. And I actually like celebrated that with the group, and it was like a huge breakthrough for me to be able to celebrate something that didn't feel as big, right? Because again, like I'm surrounded by a bunch of big sisters. Like that's what I always like, these are all my big sisters because they're like further ahead in me, right? But the thing that you've always driven home is like your middle is not my beginning, right? It's not the same. We're all in different places, and any amount of improvement is important, right? And so for me, it's been consistently increasing my income. I've never gone backward, right? Like I've always made more money each month that I've been in business, which is huge for me.
Which doesn't happen for a lot of people. So that doesn't even happen for me. I guess it did probably the first year, but man, it can be a roller coaster sometimes. So it doesn't always happen for everybody, but that's amazing. And in that time, I think also on top of the fact that you've been able to bring home an income that you're home with your kids, you're spending intentional time with your children, you have 2 children. Your husband's been able to quit his job and follow his dreams, right? Like your husband's a new entrepreneur. You guys bought a house with like a stream in the backyard. Like so much has changed for your life, and I'm so proud of you. And I know you have a tendency to downplay the
You
fact
know,
that so many major shifts have been made in your
I
life.
really, really
I see it. You
pointing those
downplay it.
I really do. I really do have a hard time celebrating those things because I don't, in the moment they don't feel that big. But you're right. Like in July of last year, because of the success of my business, we made the decision for my husband to quit his job. And so our only income currently is my income. And because of that, he was able to focus solely on getting his real estate license and focus solely on building his business in a way that feels good to him so that he doesn't have to take on shitty clients, right? And we bought a new house during all of this,
Right.
and the most expensive house that we've ever had, right? So yeah, those are all really big things. So I appreciate you for forcing me to celebrate those things. But yeah, for
Yes. Yes.
anybody who is considering working with you, especially now, with level 7, like that was a game changer, I think, because it really is going to allow people to just grow in whatever way they need to, right? Because I'm a slow grower, and I
Yeah.
think that's where I have a hard time, like celebrating my business, because just by design, I do things very slowly, right?
Yeah.
And so level 7, I think, is perfect for anybody who doesn't have a clear picture of what they want to do, but they know that they want to do something, right? Like they know that they don't want to work for anybody else, that they want to build something really beautiful and really authentic, and they really want to make a huge difference in their life and the lives of others, and to be able to do it in a way that feels good for them at whatever pace they need to, right? Because some of it can happen really, really quickly, and some of it takes some time to hash out, right?
Right.
And it's not just illicit, right? It's this whole energy that she brings that causes it to like bring together all of these incredible people, right? Mostly women, with the exception of the one token male, but like, just these people that you bring together are always so incredible. And I think that's part of the beauty, right? That's part of the package. Like there's something about this illicitness that makes everybody want to be a part of that, and to cheer each other on, and to lift each other up, and to celebrate each other's wins, and to lift each other up when we're having rough times in our business, and brainstorm, and just never allow each other to quit, right? And I feel like,
and Shannon, I know, like for you, you have forever friends from working with me. Your community, like I see you chatting back and forth with other clients, and it's funny, like I'll go to one of your posts and you're like, oh, what's everybody's money goals? And it's like all of my previous clients, like people I've worked with, are the ones commenting, and it just creates such a like this just energetic community of people that are consistently lifting each other up. And sometimes that is exactly what you need in business, right? You just need community. You just need other people doing it and giving you ideas and sharing. And, that's why I started calling level 7 like a mastermind, because it's not just me coaching you. It is you're in a community with women who have businesses closer to my level, and then people who are just starting out, and there's such a good mix, like and I think even like I can think of like Amber right now. Amber came in and she's further along than a lot of my clients that are in there, and she was a little nervous about that. She was a little nervous about like, well, I don't want to learn things that I've already, I don't want to relearn how to grow a business. I already know
but every week
that.
it's like,
And even for her, even somebody, like she just was live yesterday talking about the fact that she finally found like her groove. She finally found her thing. She had gone through like a sales slump for a little bit, and she's like, I got in the groove, and this is what it's like. Like this is like I found my thing. I'm monetizing my magic, and I'm just booking call after call after call after call, because she had already grown an audience. Like she just needed to figure out, she needed permission, honestly, I think is what it came down to. She needed permission to say she gets to grow her business any way she wants. She doesn't have to. Right. And how do you communicate what she does? Because it's very energetic. But she's like I got my group and now we're just booking calls after calls after calls and more people are signing up for our things. And so her whole message like yesterday on her live was, if you haven't found your group yet, if you haven't found your thing, like be available for it to come because it can happen. But I think that's happened from her jumping on these calls consistently. And even though she's with people who are just starting out, everybody is taking away this huge like energetic shift of permission to be yourself. You get to monetize what you want. Even if the strategy that I give you doesn't work, let's dive into what's going to work for you, right?
Yeah, we're all
And
contributing to it. We're all collaborating
yeah,
week after week, and that's really, really magical to have so many
yeah,
different perspectives come together to be able to contribute to that. Like one of us is going to come up with something that's going to work. You know, that's one of my favorite
yeah,
things. So it's 11:11, Alyssa.
yeah. All right. I know it's 11:11. Make a wish. We're gonna jump on our VIP call right now.
Yes.
We're talking about sales pages today. So thank you guys for watching this. For all of you who did tune into the recording of this conversation that Shannon and I just impromptu had this morning.
Yep.
Talk to you later.
Bye.